Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. So please take a moment, like and share this program with your friends on Facebook or on YouTube. Also, if you are listening to us via our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, please take a moment, rate the program. Give us 5 stars, and then recommend it to your friends. Let everybody know that this is the place to have these conversations. Also, please take a moment and go to fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. Now, it's Christmas time, and I know you guys are out shopping. What better way to show your friends that you support the Second Amendment by hooking them up with some cool Pro 2A swag? And the great part about it, once again, is that you know that every dollar that you spend will go right back into the fight to keep and bear arms. That's fpcgear.com. You can support the Second Amendment, and you can look good doing it. Once again, fpcgear.com. All right, let's get on to today's topics. Talking about the fight for the Second Amendment, the state of New York. We already know that New York City is completely off the chain. And New York State is not far behind, but at least it's not as bad as New York City. Well, until now, we have a state senator, Mr. Kevin S. Parker, who's decided that as a part of your background check, law enforcement should be able. Now, by the way, this is your background check not for concealed carry. This is your background check to own a firearm. That's right. In order to own a firearm, he believes that he believes that you should that people should be able to check your social media, but not just check your social media. And I think that's the scariest part about this whole thing is it's not just about checking your social media. It's about doing an in-depth search. So here's what would happen if you wished to own a firearm in New York, meaning you want to either apply for a permit or you want to renew your permit to own a firearm. Here's what they would require. You would you would consent to have his or her, or basically have your social media accounts and search engine history reviewed and investigated pursuant to subdivision 4 of this section, and such other facts as may be required to show good character, competency, and integrity of each individual signing the application. Now, with that, here's what they mean by your social media or your search history. For the purposes of this subdivision, social media accounts shall only include Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, and Instagram. And search engines shall only include Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So these are the things, the areas, the places they want you to search. Now, here's what they're going to require you to do. So you're going to have to give up your logins for your social media accounts and for your web browser, so that they can search your web browser history for anything that you might say that not just whether or not you are a danger, but whether or not you've said anything offensive. Don't think so? Well, let's read the rest of the bill. Now, here's what they're looking for. So now it says that they're going to be obtaining any login name, password, or other means for accessing a personal account, service, or electronic communications device necessary to review such applicants' social media accounts and search engine history, review the applicant's social media accounts for the previous 3 years, and search engine history for the previous year, and investigate an applicant's posts or searches related to 1. Commonly known profane slurs or biased language used to describe the race, color, national origin, ancestry, gender, religion, religious practice, age, disability, or sexual orientation of a person, threatening the health or safety of another person, an act of terrorism. So, folks, what we're talking about here, we're not just talking about looking in your search history to see if you're someone who's threatening other people. Because some people say, well, gosh, that's something that they ought to do. We want to make sure if you're threatening somebody, maybe we ought not give them a gun. No, this is if you have said anything derogatory, that can be held against you and your right to keep and bear arms and your right to own a firearm. So if you've ever used a racial slur, which means obviously no rap music allowed. If you have ever said anything derogatory, meaning if you have a position towards certain lifestyles that are inconsistent with your faith, or if maybe you have one of those lifestyles, maybe you're one of those, and you have a negative attitude or say something derogatory towards people of faith. That can then be used to take away your right to keep and bear arms, your ability to own a firearm. I just, you know me, I'm an I told you so guy, but I told you this was coming. I told you that you can see it all over the place. They think that because you want to exercise your right to keep and bear arms, because you have the Second Amendment right, all of your other rights become suspect. Right? We already know. We've already seen the red flag laws, so we already know that your private property rights, gone. Rights against unreasonable search and seizure, gone. Rights for due process, gone. We've seen in stuff in some of the advertising bills and whatnot that they've been pushing in California. We've already seen that your First Amendment rights are now gone, and now here they're further dwindling it away. If you say something derogatory, now I want y'all to stop for a minute. You guys, as much as you watch this program or listen to this program, I know you guys read the comments. Now, how many of those comments do you think, in their eyes, in this guy's eyes, would disqualify you from being able to own a firearm? Now, mind you, I'll tell you, in anti-gun places like, I'll give you an example, San Francisco, where only 4 people, all of San Francisco, have been given a permit to conceal carry because it's at the discretion of the sheriff. And that is exactly what this is. This is at the discretion of whoever is approving the permit. So if they say, well, this person dropped an N-bomb, or this person is a racist, or this person doesn't like white people, he's a racist. Or he doesn't like black people, or he doesn't like Asians, or he doesn't like gay people, or he doesn't like Muslims, or he doesn't like whatever it might be. They will use as an excuse to take away your right. Can you believe it? First of all, the idea that this is being proposed in America is sad. And what's even sadder is that it is completely and utterly believable that this would be offered. So, folks, we need to make sure that we let the folks there in the state of New York know. This cannot be tolerated. It cannot, absolutely positively cannot be tolerated, because I promise you this will be introduced to other places. It's got to be stopped, and it's got to be stopped now. So take a minute. I don't care if you don't live in New York. Don't say, I don't live in New York. I don't care if you don't live in New York. What you need to do is you need to follow the link in the description of this video, and you need to help send a letter to these folks telling them they cannot approve this. They absolutely positively telling the author that he needs to pull this bill. All you got to do is follow the link in the description to this video. If you do that, then you send your message, and then share this far and wide and let folks know that they need to do the same. It's time to nip this bad idea in the bud. Like I've said this I don't know how many times. If one of your fundamental constitutional rights is not safe, none of them are safe. Especially if the one that is safe is the one that protects all the others, and that is the Second Amendment. I'm sorry, but this is going to sound weird, but you know what? Just because you're a bigot doesn't mean you lose your rights. Just because you're hateful doesn't mean you lose your rights. Just because you're stupid doesn't mean you lose your rights. Now, you may be stupid enough to forfeit your rights, but just in and of being stupid is not enough for you to lose your rights. Rights are inherent. They are fundamental. They are inherent to every human being. And I get that there may be some people who say some things that you don't like. But guess what? That does not mean that they lose their rights, that you get to take the rights away from law-abiding citizens. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, folks. We're talking about law-abiding citizens who are going to lose their right to keep and bear arms. Why? Because of this guy. Because this guy believes that he ought to be the final arbiter of who should have a firearm and who should not. And what's funny is, in the end, he really doesn't believe that any of us should be able to own or possess a firearm. And all right, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Please take a moment, follow the link in the description of this video, get the word out. Tell everybody about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.